Okay, welcome back. For this episode, we have a special guest. He is born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. He is a junior at the University of Michigan studying physics with a minor in entrepreneurship. Generally, he's interested in using technology to facilitate social change and unite people. Um, and I'd like to welcome Luis Solano to the episode.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, let's get this going.
Cool. Luis, I would love it if maybe you could tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Right, so elementary school to high school, right? I was like kind of the not nerdy, but school focused student, right? And like just working on my homework, being ties into like my parents like making me focus to do well in school. They always said like do well in school, and then you'll see like new opportunities open. And like that was good until 8th grade, where I like maybe had a D, right? But like surpassing that, I eventually got to high school, got my diploma, and eventually ended up at the University of Michigan. um, Growing up, I would say that I was more like school oriented instead of like social oriented. And I think it wasn't at the moment. But like I guess that kind of impacted like the transition to college in my first year, my freshman year. Um, yeah, my freshman year. It was like a lot to get used to. The world, like one thing my friends is like the way I thought the world was multiplied by like a factor of 100, and it's that much bigger, right? Like there's so many things going on that we can see now, like students that go to the university could see like firsthand, basically. Um, it's like with organizations, people, and the networking. That's where like I think a bunch of the doors open, and like that's kind of where I'm progressing as of now.
So, can you tell me more about the decision to come to Michigan? Why was Michigan the ideal school for you? And um, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your path to how you found what you wanted to study and like what you're curious about in the world.
Right. So that's funny because remembering back to my freshman year, I would like struggle to even solve an equation, just a simple software X equation. And I went to my sister, and like we just went back and forth for like I don't know how many hours. Like how do you solve for X, you know? And she taught me eventually. And then the day after I finally figured that out in algebra, I was just like I just like problem solving. And even though I didn't get it, I like just looking at the problem until I figured it out. And just like that euphoria or excitement that came when like the numbers clicked, everything fit in place like a little puzzle. I really like that. And that's like, I think that's where my STEM related began. My freshman year too. After like the first semester, I started participating in a robotics team and just building hands-on. They just tied into like building, problem solving, and actually like doing physical work with people. And I thought that was a really nice experience. After being on the team for 4 years, I got the title of robotics team captain, which was pretty cool. I would like help incoming freshmen, sophomores, anybody who would want to join, and just tell them like, okay, like this is what we're gonna be doing. We have a project to do. We're gonna have a competition, so let's make the best of it. And like we just worked together, made Goldberg machines, drones, under rovers, and all that. It was pretty fun. And so my focus was really on math. I liked chemistry and like biology and all, but I really loved math until I got to calculus on my senior year. I took AP calculus, and my teacher was his name is Mr. Lesson, and I didn't even know about it at the moment, but he was a graduate from like the University of Michigan, and I didn't notice it because I was just focused on my schoolwork. Senior year is when a lot of us start applying, and for some reason I was thinking about MSU and University of Michigan, right? So I applied to both. Um, yeah, and that's pretty much how it started off, right? I will say, like, tying back to what you mentioned earlier, that sometimes things don't seem like what we imagined they would be. I remember applying and like crossing my fingers and hoping like as much as I could hope. And then I got an email like that kind of upset me a little bit because it wasn't what I expected. I was really hoping to get in immediately. And it said that my decision was going to be like postponed a little bit. And that's when, I remember running in the gym and I'm like, I really want the University of Michigan to accept me, and I would just run way faster. um, I think it's all about the energy and like, um, the things that you want to do. Um, yeah, eventually I got the email iteration. I would I was accepted, but I had to do the summer bridge program. And after graduating high school, I had like about 2 weeks to just do what I can, do what I wanted, but also to prepare mentally to actually begin and spearhead my journey on, going to the university.
That's I can resonate with that experience of like going wanting to get in so badly to U of
Yeah.
M that like anything else that you're doing, you just work 10 times harder because you feel like it's gonna make a difference, and it kind of does in some way, because you're like it's almost like I deserve this. Like I'm working so hard for it. I'm working so hard, and for some people, like no matter how hard they work, it doesn't matter. um, you can still not get what you want or still not achieve what you want. It's kind of an interesting paradox, but uh, luckily you and I both did get in, and so my humble belief is we were meant to be, um, going to Michigan. I do remember myself though running. I used to run every day after school, and this was back in high school, and I would run hills, and like as I was running up the hills I would be listening to like heavy rock or like metal, and just inside being like, this is what being a Wolverine means. Like this is what being built to be a Wolverine feels and looks like, and I would just want it so bad and work so hard.
Yeah.
So I definitely resonate with your story. So my next question is, when did you realize that you were a problem solver? I know you said that your sister played a big impact in like helping you work through math problems, but was there a time before that, maybe earlier in your life, where you realized that you were really good at solving problems?
Yeah, I would say that my sister's like a majority of like my motivation and inspiration to problem solve when things don't go your way. Um, like if I think about a general time when I realized that I love to problem solve, I think it would be around the end of my sophomore year. Um, I'm not sure if it's the same experience with you, but like being in the school, sometimes I would consider some of the work as busy work, and I would wonder like, what's the point of this, right? I grew up already kind of like focusing on my studies, so the discipline was there, emphasize discipline, grit, and all that. Which it's kind of funny because the school is also, well, at that moment it was also kind of imposing those aspects on students, and a lot of students would kind of like dislike it, and at that time I would too, because again we were growing, becoming teenagers and stuff. But like I think that kind of helped me, like my experience in the past helped me kind of manage that during my high school experience. And so instead of focusing on like the stress of following rules or this and that, maybe the uniform, which I still don't like, but I think it helped me to kind of focus on a different aspect and yes, focus on school, but also focus more on like the things I want and the things I find not beneficial but productive.
What are those things for you today?
To me, it's like learning new skills, investing my time in like my future, basically. Um, let's say you think about something you want to do. For example, these past couple months, I've been looking into investing, right? And I've always been interested in investing, but I never really took the time to like research like what are stocks, what companies, how to invest, portfolios, and all that. And recently, I've been like just dipping my fingers into that, like reading up on articles, like following even on Instagram people who invest, just seeing their, just learning from them basically. Um, yeah,
So
Google has a lot of answers.
that's really true.
Yeah,
It's a blessing that we're growing up in an era where we literally have the world's information at our fingertips.
right.
And we're seeing it now, especially now for me, like being a fifth year senior, having spent 4 years in a college classroom. I'm actually interestingly finding that I kind of like learning online a little bit better right now. I mean, I still get my energy from people around me and things like that, and I'm still finding ways to do that, but I'm finding that I have more time to actually do the work and to be curious and that sort of thing, because I don't have to travel, on campus. I don't have to walk. I don't have to, plan out my meals because I don't know when I'm going to be home. Everything's right here. So I think it's been a blessing for me.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that too because like going to class from like building to building, it does give a scenery because campus is beautiful, right? Like nature is beautiful, and the birds we hear chirping, you know, it's nice to hear them. Um, Also seeing like the busy workplace to people going back and forth, it kind of like you said, it kind of inspires you or like you get the energy from that too. But like I agree heavily on the like a bunch of the information that we can pull out now. It kind of maximizes our time basically. Yeah.
It can be a good thing and a bad thing. I think
Yeah.
I've struggled with the time management a little bit, and I've struggled with like the mental health slightly, just in terms of like almost being so locked into the work that I forget to just go have fun or go for a walk sometimes. How have you been managing like taking care of yourself during um, you know, this COVID-19?
So what I've been doing is like I study, I do my stuff, I do my homework, I do my research on Google on whatever I want to do, right? But I also make sure to give myself like kind of like a break or like like a couple minutes ago I took a power nap. It was like 30 minutes, but I woke up feeling like I with a bunch more energy after already in the morning, and I woke up, had labs, right, like 2 hours long and a bunch of like coding and all that. So just that power nap made me feel like more revived. And I think that ties into like taking care of ourselves. Kind of like you take care of a car. If you don't change the oil, then mechanical issues arise, and maybe besides just mechanical issues, you have to spend more money and maybe look for a different stuff because we can't get others. Like we have to balance life and our responsibilities, but we can't forget to take care of ourselves. Like that's a major aspect that we can't forget.
I definitely resonate with that. I wanted to come back to the previous question of your current interests. How are your current how are your current interests sort of paving the way for the future that you want, either for yourself or for like the world or for like the societies and cultures that you're a part of?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, back in like elementary and high school, I wasn't that really outgoing. So I was just kind of working on how to be efficient with my time, how to be productive, how to know what I want to do, basically. But like entering the university, you know, you kind of see the importance of networking. And I think because I wasn't, networking in the past, now it's like something I really find important to. It ties in with the saying like it's not what you know really, but who you know. And if you know something and then you know the right people, then a bunch of opportunities open with that. Um, Also, you mentioned like what am I doing right now to fulfill like my future goals or career. Um, Honestly, I see myself working with like computer science and coding, whether it's like user design or making a software to facilitate a certain procedure. Um, I like working with people and like making it user friendly. So if someone's gonna use it, it's because it's easy to use, right? So just developing my hobby, like it's a hobby, honestly. Today I found out that I guess it's pretty common sense, but today I found out that with my physics class, I was gonna be learning Python, and honestly, I've worked with C++, CSS, HTML, but never Python. And today I surprised myself with the assignments, so it's a start right there too.
So, how do you anticipate using these skills that you're building to actually make those changes that you want to make? Because I know you said you're interested in utilizing technology to help facilitate social change. So, is there or do you have any current ideas about how you plan to do that, or are you looking for opportunities to do that?
Yeah. So currently, I'm looking for opportunities, and wherever I go to, like, or whoever I meet, one day, the next day, if I think about an idea or like something that maybe we can work together on that would be beneficial not just for us but like for society, I like to reach out and just kind of like, even if I don't have a full agenda, make the next step to progress there. Because yes, it might be a year, two, maybe six, or even later, right? But we took that step to progress and develop ourselves in that direction. And I think that's what's important to do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure there are people listening who would be more than willing to, link up and chat about ideas or, what the future might look like.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to come back to this concept that we were talking about before we started the podcast about expectations about life choices.
Mhm.
Because I think what you were saying earlier that, there's so many forces, that are affecting us, right? Our
Yeah.
families, our own upbringings, our friends, our mentors. It seems everyone has an agenda for us. Yet sometimes we forget to examine our own agendas or, our own expectations for the type of life that we want to live.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts about that?
So I think growing up, maybe our first feeling of an expectation stems from parents. And um, now that we have like phones everywhere, right? Everybody mostly has a phone. It also ties into what we see on the like social media, for example. We all know that there's like algorithms and misinformation and all of that, but we kind of have to like figure out what makes us us, basically, because what they say about us being unique, that can be like, you know, your kind of like the key to your success, basically. Um, So like expectations of parents, maybe like, oh, study this, and if they say like, why would you study this? It's not gonna be beneficial in the future. Then you kind of get pressured to like, okay, I have to study this, and if I don't, then I'm gonna be like considered a a failure or whatnot if that's the case. But yeah, and then like social media, we see a bunch of people like we all have our moments, right? But social media captures our like euphoria moments. And so when we post on like a story on Snapchat or a story on Instagram or a post like celebrating our, maybe you graduated or got accepted to a new job, we're kind of like bombarded with that, and we kind of feel the pressure to almost live up to, if not their expectations, but all of other people's expectations to be, doing something extremely successful every day. And that's kind of not the case, to be realistic, because, not everybody's going to be having the same life experiences at the same time or in the same manner as well.
So then, how do you manage other outside forces' expectations of you and your own expectations for yourself?
Right. So I like to take in consideration multiple perspectives in a way. Like I see on social media, I do see a bunch of like, okay, I got accepted, and it's great to see people like. We can't be getting mad that people, are being successful. It's kind of like you gotta love to see it to, start motivating yourself too. But we have to kind of take a step back and not get too off like course with our journey to get to where we want to be. It's also like everything you see, it might not be the way it really is. So we have to kind of work with it, like taking that information, know that this is possible, know that networking with certain people can result to this and whatnot. But we can't be kind of like set in stone with that. We just have to know that it's possible.
Do you have any examples of how sort of like balancing expectations and like being comfortable with things maybe turning out a different way than you thought has been prevalent in your life circumstances?
Um, let's see. But
Sorry, I think we had a internet cut out there.
okay.
Um, I don't know if you answered the question. I just
Oh yeah, I said like at the moment I can't think of like a specific, maybe turning point or experience with that. But if you have any, I'd love to hear it.
sure, I'll tell you about one of mine. So I did get pretty lucky in that I actually did get into Michigan. It was my first choice, and there were some expectations built up into getting into
Mhm.
Michigan. Um, First, I didn't apply to any other top tier schools. Um, I sold myself a little short in terms of like applying to Ivies, and I honestly didn't think I was smart enough or have the grades or scores to get in. So I thought, okay, Michigan is the best school I could get into. That's the one that I want to go to. And if I don't get in, then I guess I'll find some other school to go to. So there was the expectation
Yeah.
about myself. In terms of like expectations of other people about me, I had been telling people, oh, I'm gonna get into Michigan. I'm gonna get into Michigan, and it almost became a thing where like, if I didn't get in, that's gonna be a huge embarrassment because
Yeah.
people, were expecting that because I was telling them it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
When I actually got to Michigan, had gotten in and all of that, I didn't know what I wanted to study. Um, I'm a first gen, so I didn't really have a whole lot of mentorship in terms of um, life experience going through college and like picking a major and navigating this. And I sort of chose psychology and didn't get into the majors that I wanted. I stumbled upon entrepreneurship, and honestly, even though I had a plan for becoming a psychiatrist and all of this, I've found my life calling in a similar area that's
Mhm.
an adaptation of my original vision for my future. And now I'm couldn't be happier being interested in education and business and now like strengths-based coaching. Um, so I would say like just I've become comfortable with adapting and being comfortable with failure,
Yeah, yeah,
and being open to shifting expectations for what I want out of my future. In fact, I've found
yeah.
the best thing to do is to have no expectations and to instead have smart goals.
I uh, like going off of that too. You made me remember like the college experience I was mentioning. Um, like my parents were like really proud that I made it to like the University of Michigan, right? Being a first generation student, Mexican parents and like all that. It's kind of like a big thing, right? Um, Considering like I'm one of the few, that are in the United States. Um, it's kind of like you hope to spearhead a big, change, not just in your family, but like society and like yourself and all that, just managing everything. And so, freshman year, I remember being like really stressed. I was taking like 17 credits, working at a lab and outside stuff too. And I just found myself staying up till 4 a.m. And like, I remember being in the lab one day and I was just like, I need to and I have a moment. And I kind of had like a mental breakdown then. And it kind of opened my eyes, or like it kind of made me think about like, okay, I'm here, but like why is it not the experience of my life. um, and I guess that kind of went to the expectations of my parents, because every time I would come back or talk with them, they would be like highlighting that college is the best thing you can do. College is like the one thing that's gonna open like a lot of opportunities and whatnot. And then just going back after like say Thanksgiving break to the university, I would just be bombarded again with like the stress, constant stress or any pressure, right? Because a lot of us do feel that at the university. But I think I kind of reached my peak when I changed my major. So at first it was I wasn't like at first I honestly didn't even know how college worked. Like I remember studying Russian and math class, a physics class, and I was like, okay, don't choose a major until your second year. And but then like after that first year, I started realizing that okay, maybe majors do need to take a lot of time and effort to complete. And so I started worrying more about okay, what's my focus of study, what am I going to be doing, right? And that's kind of when I changed to computer science. And taking the first course, I was really overwhelmed because first of all it was a new language for me. C++, started with X183. um, yeah, everybody seemed to like when I would work on projects with people, they would mention like that they had already had computing programming experiences like in high school. And I didn't grow up with that. Like I had the basic biology, math, calculus and whatnot. So I kind of felt not excluded, but kind of like if I was behind and I had some work to do to catch up. And I think that kind of inspired me a little bit, despite being really stressful at the moment. Um, yeah, X183 was actually one of the classes I didn't do so good in, but the next semester I took it again and I got I think I got an A or a B plus or something, which was really like motivating. And that kind of tied back into like how I felt when I was in my freshman year of high school, not knowing how to solve an equation, and then figuring something out and making it work.
Oh, that's a really interesting insight because it sounds like that same motivation and like internal feeling you had when you found out that you're passionate about robotics and passionate about problem solving, you sort of rediscovered that when you were taking EECS 183. And what
Yeah.
I'm inspired about that story is that you didn't do as well. You felt like you were behind, or that you had to like overcome a challenge, right? And then that problem
Yeah.
solver in you was activated, and you were like, and you were, some people might, you know, um, might sort of shrink to the challenge, but you were like, you embraced that challenge and then came back to it and tried again and again. And I think that speaks so well to who I'm coming to understand you to be, as this problem solver who's gritty and who gets inspired by challenges. And it's it's motivating to me to learn that about you, because I feel like I'm getting to know you better. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing. Um, so I had another question for you about um, sort of like positionality, right? Because we were talking before about being mindful of your positionality, meaning like your uh, your identities that comprise parts of who you are, right?
Right.
It's hard to put somebody in a box and say you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, so therefore you're this. No, the human system is so much more complex than a series of categories, right? But I'm just kind of curious how your identities and your positions have influenced your life up until this, today.
Yeah. So it's important to understand like maybe where our parents came from or where we are now and where those people come from, because we are living our life, but we're not the only ones alive, right? So there's a bunch of perspectives out there in the world. And I think the important thing to know is that we have to be kind of humble. We can't let the ego like destroy like maybe the perspective that people view us as. We have to be careful with what we say and how we say it and to whom we say it to. um, it's kind of like being mature yet knowing what you want, and also not doing it excessively or in a bad negative way, but doing it in a productive and almost secure way, if that makes sense. And like you said, the human mind, brain is like extremely complex. At some point, we might feel inspired, and then in the next 30 minutes, we may feel like a little bit down, and that's normal. That's how humans are, right? And it's important to just like work with that and take into consideration that other people have feelings, thoughts, and perceptions of certain things, and we just got to kind of find a balance with that.
Right. And I think too is like being able to one way or another cultivate empathy for
Yeah, yeah.
people and perspectives that are different than yours. Because there's a reason why, people have conflicting beliefs. It's because of
Hmm.
the history, right, behind those beliefs. There's so much that go into those ideas. And one thing I've been really emphasizing in my relationships as of recently is that we're all human. you know um, Whenever you're building relationships with another person, if you can't even agree on your humanity, on your shared humanity, that we share this planet, um, with each other, then
Right.
how can you even begin to become empathetic to perspectives that are different than yours? And I, I don't know if I'm correct in saying this, or if this is sort of a provocative idea, but I so first off, I am a proponent of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I stand in solidarity, or kneel, I guess, in solidarity, depending on the perspective, with the Black Lives Matter movement. I've recently become aware of what it actually means. Um, I in my positions, I understood that the, I guess, other perspective, which was all lives matter, and that made sense to me because of my positionality. I thought, yeah, it doesn't make sense that just one type of life matters. all lives matter, right? It makes sense. But then when I actually spoke with Black people and people of color who shared their perspective on what Black Lives Matter mean, it means a very binary question is like, do Black Lives Matter? And if your answer to that is yes, then you understand what Black Lives Matter as a movement means. It's not saying one life matters more than another. It's
Right.
saying, it's asking that binary question, do they matter? And if they do matter, you understand the concept of the movement.
Mm-hmm.
I would go as far, though, as to say that while I believe in equality and I believe that we should treat each other fairly, et cetera, and have opportunities to economic growth and et cetera, I don't think we should treat each other equally because I think that people need to be treated how they want to be treated, right? And that's not necessarily the same as how somebody else would want to be treated. So I think everyone should be treated well and everyone should be empathetic towards other people. And I think opportunities should be equal and things like that. But I don't think everyone should necessarily be treated equal because I think people want to be treated in different ways. If I, for example, I'm not going to talk with you, Luis, about, let's say, um, I'm trying to think of something that would be directly in conflict with problem solving. Whatever the opposite of grit would be, right? I'm not going to talk to you in terms of that language because that's not who you are. You believe
Right.
in grit, you believe in perseverance, you believe in overcoming challenges. So I'm not going to talk to you in terms of failure. I'm going to talk to you in terms of overcoming challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody else might not resonate with that language. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, um, let's see. So to begin with, I think everything teaches us a lesson, right? And sometimes we may overlook it, but in the future we might figure out why it was there. Um, like for example, I say that my parents like gave me different expectations and I felt the pressure of them, but I don't blame them for that. I don't blame them for anything because without them at the end, I wouldn't be where I am right now, right? So that's, and now moving into like what you mentioned about the Black Lives Matter movement. I am 100% with the Black Lives Matter movement. But then it ties into like what we've seen in these past months with the rioting and the looting all going on. I understand like the frustration and everything, but when we shoot each other, kill each other, hurt each other, like that's kind of the opposite of it, right? So it's understandable and like bad things happen in the world, right? But we kind of have to just it's hard to just like say in a sentence because in reality there's systems in place, there's procedures here, there's protocols there, police departments already have their, maybe they're patrolling a certain neighborhood, maybe one neighborhood more than the other. To, um, I remember reading about in Chicago that some neighborhoods are patrolled more than others, and being here, I literally see like cops patrolling certain neighborhoods more than others, right? And I'm sure they have like good intentions, but I'm sure some just do it because it's their job, right? Um, like Humboldt Park or the 20 like this place called the 26. That's what we call it. It's like a community of of like, how do I say this? Mainly comprised of like Latinos, and like that compared to certain other areas, just say somewhere like a neighbor like Ukrainian village here. It's not like you can tell the different in like the difference in how do I say this in patrolling basically, and like I guess that ties into like that's the like we know that statistically like African American people are more like um imprisoned basically, or like you know fined or stopped and searched maybe even again mm, reiterate that I don't know everything. I could be wrong, but I'm also willing to accept where I was wrong, and I'm willing to learn and see a different perspective as well. Every day we're improving, right? But it's kind of like it's difficult because we can say it in words, write a book, and it could be stellar and ideal for everybody, right? But in real life, when we're all moving in different directions, different paths, different motives, different experiences, it's kind of hard to, be in the same boat all at once. Um, I would, I would say that at the end of the day, um, it sounds kind of wrong to say, but I don't blame the people for the way they've acted because after years of a certain way of viewing something, it's kind of frustrating, right? Because it feels like the system is not there to help you, but to suppress you. And I felt that as well, coming from a Latino background and growing up, Um, for example, there's condos all around me, but that wasn't the case before. We're not living in the condo, but we're like one of the two houses who that has remained here in this neighborhood for years, right? So like gentrification, patrolling systems. There's a like it's hard for one person to know it all, see it all, and like understand all those perspectives. And I think that's kind of the problem with law, basically, because law like they make a rule to fit all, and if you don't follow that rule, then you get into trouble. You get fined, imprisoned. They take property away and all that. So it's kind of you can't blame one person for doing this because of thought about it. They all have perspective and a different lifestyle.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be a person of color in America today. I literally can't. It's impossible for me to understand. Like I can sympathize as much as possible, and like I have been trying to have dialogues with people who are come from different backgrounds to me, and I am starting to become aware of the injustices that have been happening in America, that America are even built on, right? America, in many ways, is built on um, human trafficking and war, right? Like straight up imprisoning Native Americans, taking land from Mexico, bringing over slaves from boats, and then like literally like breaking away from Britain and fighting a war. It's That's what America is built on, and it when you really closely examine that history, it's like wow, like we haven't really come very far,
Right.
from those roots.
And even to this day, we see like Native Americans. They have their what is it called? Like a certain area that they live in.
Oh yeah. Uh,
Like
like
basically,
like
was that
missions. Are they called missions?
missions? I'm
There's
not too sure. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure like we understand what I mean, right?
yeah. I'll look up the word as well.
Yeah. So like I was gonna just mention like I remember reading about it in my American culture class, just about how it came to be like all the laws and the treaties, and at the end of the day, how a bunch of them were kind of like not ripped off, but like taken advantage of to be kind of like pushed into okay, stay here and that's it. Like okay, we're the federal government, we'll help you, but not really, And it kind of it's like some systems are just too outdated to be ideal in today's society, basically.
I think the word we were looking for is reservations.
Reservations, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, it's just a horrifying past, and it's terrible we haven't made more progress on understanding our history and changing that history for the
Yeah.
better. Do you feel comfortable sharing more about your experience being a Latino in America today?
Let's see. Um, yeah. So, like I mentioned before, like for my family, there's only like a handful here in the United States that are here legally and whatnot. Um, Growing up, I've only seen my grandpa one time, and I haven't seen my grandma. But we like keep in touch through the phone whenever we can, call each other, update us, tell them, like, just tell them about our everyday life and whatnot. So that like the distance there and like the having cousins, maybe in this block or in the next neighborhood and whatnot. I kind of grew up in a. I'm sure I'm not alone, by the way, in a different mindset of like, okay, just focus on school, do what you can, get out basically, and like uh, like I remember feeling like every time that a cop would come by, like, okay, I have my seatbelt, okay, I'm good, I'm not gonna be in trouble, I'm not gonna get this and that, I'm not gonna get a record and potentially affect my future career if that's the case. Um, but growing up, like there is definitely multiple pressures. I guess also that so how some people enter like a university and they feel like imposter syndrome. A lot of us grow up with imposter syndrome, not for school, but like for living in this country. And as it might sound silly to somebody, but to someone who's feeling it, it's kind of like it's really overwhelming sometimes. Sometimes because of that same feeling and that same um, almost like mindset, you kind of it kind of let's see, it kind of affects you in a not good way, but at the time it's happening, you can't really um, see it a different way because that's what you know as at the moment. If that makes sense.
Makes sense. I've studied imposter syndrome in psychology. Um, Again, it's not my experience, but I'm sympathetic and I want to understand what
Mm-hmm.
that's like. And I don't think that's fair. You and I, the way I see it, are one and the same.
Yeah,
And I would hope you feel the same about me. Um, it's it's a challenge. Do you have any advice for any students, any Latino or students of color who have potentially experienced similar things? Like, how can you overcome that?
honestly, like just surround yourself with people who have the same goals as you, because at the end of the day we're all humans, and there's good people and bad people anywhere in the world. But you surround yourself with people who want to be successful, who want to give back to the community for the greater good, you know who want to be productive but also enjoy life. Like you're gonna start seeing like what you really like, and but just by being next to those people, you're gonna kind of see what's possible for you to do that you didn't think was possible before.
So the other question I had was, how do you think people who don't come from a similar background of you might become more aware of how to be empathetic and
Yeah,
to, like, I guess, just understand more?
I think we just have to not like just break down the barriers that we might have perceived in the past or grew up in, but we kind of have to just treat ourselves as humans. At the end of the day, we all eat, we all like to relax, we all may have a job or homework to do, we're all stressing at the same time, we're all trying to get by, right? um but it just comes to like fundamentally understanding that we're all human at the end of the day, that we have emotions, we are social, but we also like, maybe our own time to like listen to music, watch a movie with friends, even just relax together, And I think that's kind of the like one of the fundamental aspects of getting to understand a lot of perspectives, but also knowing kind of like where you want to be in that society or world.
Yeah, my tool has been dialogue. Um, I recognize that I have biases and I recognize that I have blind spots, even though I don't always know what those blind spots are.
Yep.
People listening or even maybe you have already picked up on some of my biases or blind spots. And, there's only so much I can do about them at times, but also I can make an effort, right, to overcome those histories that go into how I view the world and things like that. But dialogue has been my tool, and
Yep.
I've certainly become humbled throughout, dialoguing with so many people,
Mhm.
so many people over the past, from I would say end of June 2020 to now September 2020. I've
Yeah.
probably met with over 100 people one on one to just talk about like life and talk about
Right.
interests and talk about goals. And I'm talking like students, but also faculty, staff, alumni, like straight up professionals and
Mhm.
experts in industry. And it's fascinating to one see like the individuals, but also to like take a step back and be like, oh my gosh, we're all just one and the same.
Yeah.
We're all one and the same. And I want to be a part of that movement towards helping each other move in the same direction. Because I think it's possible. I really think it's possible.
I think so too. I think a major thing to take in consideration with all of this is like I said, I don't know it all, right? But I'm willing to learn more and accept where I'm wrong, you know? And I think that's kind of like where we have to be humble. Like, okay, maybe you did mess up, but accept it and try to be a better person tomorrow or, whenever you can. And there's no pressure, it should all just come genuinely from within you to be a better person, to do what you desire, basically. Like, if you want to dance, go ahead, dance, If you want to make music, Like, it's all beautiful. We have one world, and why wouldn't we enjoy it?
That is really beautiful. When you said
Yeah.
dance, I automatically something inside me was like, I want to just go and like let loose and enjoy. I've been,
Yeah.
pent up inside for so long. And like, I do get outside and stuff and I do exercise, but I haven't had the opportunity to dance in a while. And there's something magnificent about not only dancing by yourself, but like sharing that energy with somebody else as well.
Like, sometimes I just like to blast music like in a speaker and just hear it, just feel the vibrations, just go with it. And I didn't really grow up learning how to dance, because like, all those bachata or like whatnot. Like, I don't know how to dance, but this past weekend I went with I went over to my tia's house, and like I just started moving. I was like, I might look like silly doing this, but like this is the first step to learn maybe how to dance. Just let loose, enjoy the energy, and you know.
Um, Luis, do you mind if I say something in Spanish real quick?
No, go ahead. Go
um,
ahead.
voy a la casa de mis padres después este call.
Oh, for real.
Sí.
This one.
Es mi es la es el cumpleaños de mi tía.
Oh, look,
Sí,
talking about Theos, right?
sí, este fin de semana. Sí.
Oh, okay.
My
That's
Spanish is trash, but
no, like that's definitely perfect. Happy birthday in advance, uncle. No, not uncle, auntie.
it's Tia. Sí.
Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe one day, I can't say when, but maybe one day we'll be able to chat solely in Spanish.
yeah, yeah,
My
sure.
goal. um,
Looking forward to that.
yeah, me too. Me too. We can help each other.
Yeah,
We can help each other in so many ways. Um, Thank you. Thank you for being willing to dialogue with me. And as a friend, I would ask if you ever disagree with me, or if you ever think that I should know something, just call me out. You know,
Yeah.
think
Same way
about
to
being a good friend.
likewise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I appreciate the relationship we've begun to cultivate, and hopefully we have a strong foundation of trust and respect, and um, you know, as allies as well of Maximize. I want you to know that I'm here if you need anything.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And the same goes to you. Like I mentioned, we're all human at the end of the day, and we should be there for each other whenever we can, right?
Even from afar, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Even from
That's
afar,
where technology comes in play.
right?
If not, we'll just mail letters like the old days.
Yeah. Or we'll, I don't know, take horses or walk if we have to, if it comes down to it, right? I don't know.
Just make it work.
Yeah, just make it work. Problem solve, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is there anything additional that you would like to share with, maybe the listeners, or like any shout outs or anything?
Just shout out to everybody who's been in my life because they've taught me, a bunch of lessons, either directly or indirectly. And like without any of them, any experiences, whether it was good or bad, like I'm growing as a person, and I'm grateful for that. And also, like, don't forget, where you came from, basically. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Luis, thank you so much for coming on uh, this afternoon, and I look forward to our next dialogue.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thank you so much. Peace, love, and namaste.
Yes, sir. Namaste.